For most of human history, a coastline at night was a trap. Sailors out in the dark had no way to know where the rocks began, and the rocks were patient, and the sea fed them regularly. And then, over a few remarkable generations, people did something almost absurd. They went out to the most dangerous places on the entire map, the reefs, the skerries, the drowned ledges that had eaten ships for 1,000 years, and on those exact spots, they built towers and put lights on top. And then, stranger still, they put people inside to live there, on a rock in the open sea, in ships for months, so that the light would never ever go out. Tonight, you are going to spend one calm, clear night inside one of those towers, in the great age of the lighthouse keeper, and you are going to find out that the loneliest job in the world was also, on a quiet night, one of the most peaceful. So settle into your bed. Let your shoulders sink. Let your hands rest wherever they are comfortable. There is nothing to remember tonight, and nothing to solve. If you drift off before the story is done, that is exactly what it is for. You wake up inside a Victorian lighthouse, and the first thing you notice is that your bedroom is curved. Everything here is curved. You're lying in a bunk built snug against the wall, and the wall bends gently away on either side of you, because the room is a perfect circle, 12 feet across, one round slice of a granite tower that stands on a half-tide rock 2 miles off the coast. And every room you will walk through tonight is this same circle, stacked one on top of another like coins, joined by a spiral stair that winds up the wall through all of them, from the sea-washed storerooms at the bottom to the great glass crown at the top. It is early evening. Through the little deep-set window, no wider than your 2 hands, the sky is going down through amber into green-blue, over a sea so calm it looks upholstered. The weather has been kind for a week. The swell against the rock below is long, low, and lazy, a deep soft concussion every 7 or 8 seconds, less a sound than a pulse, the tower's own resting heartbeat. And you have been asleep inside it all afternoon, because you sleep in the afternoon here, on purpose, by rota. Because tonight, the first watch is yours. Somewhere above you, boots are moving unhurriedly on stone. Below, in the kitchen, a kettle is arriving at its opinion. The whole tower smells faintly and permanently of its trade: brass polish, lamp oil, paint, tar, tea, and the clean salt breath of the sea coming up the stairwell. And there is nowhere else on earth that smells like a lighthouse. And by the end of tonight, you will know why every keeper who ever retired said he missed it. Get up then, and dress warm, and let me walk you up the inside of this machine, because a lighthouse is exactly that, a single vertical machine, and you are living in its works. The tower is granite, dovetailed granite, and the dovetailing is the first stroke of genius you should know about. Every block was cut on shore with interlocking joints like enormous puzzle pieces, so that each stone locks into its neighbors on every side, and the courses lock into the courses above and below, and the finished tower is not a pile of stone at all, but effectively one single stone grown in place, gripping its rock like a molar in a jaw. Waves have hit towers like this one hard enough to throw green water clean over the lantern, 130 feet up, and the tower answered with a shudder and a shrug, and stood exactly where it was. The men who worked out how to do this, in the great engineering dynasties of the last century, could only build in the few calm weeks of summer, landing on the bare rock between tides, bolting each course to the living reef. And some of these towers took 5 years of snatched, dangerous tide-ruled summers to raise. What they built has now been standing without complaint through everything the Atlantic owns for the better part of a century. Climb the stair, and the tower tells you its plan, one round room at a time. At the bottom, just above the reach of the sea, the storerooms, water tanks, coal, oil in its great cans. Above them, the kitchen and living room, the warm heart. Above that, the bedrooms, then the service room, where the watch is kept, and above everything, up a last steep ladder stair, the lantern. And notice, as you climb, how the tower has made its peace with the sea's opinion of it. The walls at the base are 8 feet thick and taper as they rise, the whole shaft curved in the gentle flare the engineers borrowed from the trunk of an oak tree, a shape that does not fight a wave but persuades it, turning the sea's blow into a climb, sending the water up and over instead of through. The windows are small and deep and shuttered in brass. The door, 30 feet above the rock, is gunmetal and closes like a safe. Nothing about this building argues with the ocean. It simply declines politely in granite to be moved. And it has been declining now for 70 years. And spare one thought as you climb. For the summer, this stair did not exist, because the building of a rock tower is one of the great patient epics of this whole age, and this tower has its own. Before the light, the rock below you was only a name on the charts with a bad reputation, a half-tide ledge that showed its back at low water and hid it at high, and the bottom of the sea around it is furnished, even now, with the iron and oak of everything it caught. The engineers came out first in an open boat in the calm of a June and could stand on the rock for perhaps 90 minutes before the tide took it back, and in those snatched windows, visit by visit, they measured and sounded and chose their ground. Then the work seasons, 5 of them. A barrack on iron legs raised beside the site, so the masons could live over the sea instead of losing 2 hours a day to boats. The landing stage, the derricks, and then course by course, the numbered stones coming out on the tenders, each block already cut and fitted to its neighbors in the shore yard. The whole tower assembled once on land, like a rehearsal, taken apart, shipped out, and grown again on the rock, dovetail by dovetail, bolted to the reef, through 5 summers of tide-ruled, weather-robbed, 90-minute working days. Some seasons, the sea gave them 10 good weeks. One season, it gave them 4. The men who did it are in no book you have read. But every course of this stair carries their chisel marks, and the tower they grew out of a drowned ledge has outlived them into its 8th decade of quiet nights, and will outlive the keepers too. And everyone knows it, and no one minds, because that was always the arrangement. You have met this arrangement before, in an abbey field, watching men dig for grandchildren. Here it wears oilskins. Build the thing that outlasts you, on the worst rock you can find, so that people you will never meet can sail past it safely, forever, in the dark. In the kitchen, 2 flights up, the other 2 keepers are at the table, and the kettle has made its case, and there is tea, and there is buttered toast done on the range, and this is the changing of the guard, lighthouse style, which is to say, unhurried, comfortable, and conducted mostly in comfortable silence. There are 3 of you on this rock, always 3, by the fixed rule of the service, and the 3 of you divide every day and every night, between you and watches, turn and turn about, so that at any hour of any day, 1 keeper is on duty, 1 is off, and 1 is asleep, and the arrangement rolls around the clock endlessly, month in, month out, a small human clockwork inside the big brass one. The principal keeper is a gray, square, deliberate man of 30 years' service who says perhaps 40 words a day and means all of them. The second keeper is younger, newly married, mends clocks for a hobby, and is currently, by the smell of it, winning his long campaign to teach himself bread. Tonight you have the first watch, sunset until the small hours. The principal takes the deep night. The second keeper has the dawn. Life in here has the deep, worn smoothness of a routine that 3 men have polished until it fits. Everything in the round kitchen has its exact place, because in a room 12 feet across, shared by 3 large men, everything must, the cups on their hooks, The barometer by the stair, tapped in passing by every keeper on every trip, entirely automatically, the way you check a sleeping child. The talk is small and sufficient. The state of the glass steady. The bread rising. A porpoise school that went through the race this afternoon, heading east. Nobody mentions the light in the way that nobody in a family mentions the reason the family exists. And on the shelf by the stair sits the book that rules all three of your lives, the log, and before your watch you sign into it, as every keeper signs into every watch in every lighthouse in the service, and its pages are the plainest poetry this century produces. Wind northwest, light. Barometer 30.1, steady. Lamp lit 7.42. Vessels passing, 4 steam, 2 sail. And then, at the end of most entries, most nights, the 4-letter word the whole tower exists to be able to write. The entry every keeper hopes to write forever. Calm. Nothing to report. There are 70 years of nothing to report on that shelf, bound in canvas, and every page of nothing represents a night of ships that passed in safety and never knew your name, which is, when you think about it, the whole job. A lighthouse keeps its triumphs as blank lines. And now it is time. Because the sun is 10 minutes off the sea, and in the lighthouse service, sunset is not a view, it is an appointment. The regulations say the light burns from sunset to sunrise, every night, forever. No exceptions have ever been listed. And so, at lighting up time, you climb, up past the bedrooms, up through the service room with its desk and its log and its neat racked tools, up the last steep companion stair, through the hatch and out into the lantern room, and stop, because no matter how many watches you keep, this room stops you. It is a circle of glass at the top of the world, 10 sides of storm pane in bronze frames, floor to ceiling, and beyond them, nothing but evening. The whole enormous circle of the sea, amber to the west, where the sun is dissolving into its own reflection, deep blue-gray to the east, where the first star is already through, the coast a low charcoal line 2 miles off, with its own small lights coming on one by one, like embers waking. Gulls turn below you. Below the gulls, the rock, ringed white. You are standing in a glass room above the ocean at the exact moment the day ends, and keepers who did this for 40 years wrote in their retirement letters that this room, at this hour, was the thing. And in the center of the room, waiting, stands the reason for the tower, the reason for the service, the reason for you, the optic. It is the size of a small room itself, a towering beehive of glass and gleaming brass, 12 feet of it, ring upon ring of prisms, stacked into a dome above and a dome below, with great bullseye panels set round its waist, like the lenses of giants, and even unlit in the last of the daylight, it is quietly on fire, every prism holding a piece of the sunset, the whole apparatus glowing amber and violet like a held breath. By day, it sleeps behind drawn curtains, and the curtains are not decoration. They are fire safety, because this glass is so hungry for light that the morning sun, focused backwards through it, could set the lamp, the room, and the woodwork burning. So every dawn, the keeper coming off watch dresses the optic in linen like a sleeping giant. And every dusk, the keeper coming on undresses it. Which is what you do now, walking the circle, drawing the curtains back panel by panel, while the glass wakes up around you. Now understand what this glass beehive actually does, because it is one of the most elegant ideas in the entire history of engineering, and it was worked out by a quiet French physicist whose name the whole world's coastlines now wear. Fries Nel. Here is the problem he solved. A flame, any flame, throws its light in every direction at once, up, down, sideways, into the room, into the sky, and almost none of it toward the one place it is needed, the horizon. A bare lamp in this window would be visible perhaps 5 miles, a glow, a rumor. What Fresnel understood is that light can be gathered. A curved piece of glass bends light. Everyone knew that. But a lens big enough to gather a lighthouse flame would be a boulder of glass too thick to see through and too heavy to lift. So Fresnel took the boulder apart. He realized that only the surface of a lens does the bending. All that glass in the middle is just weight. And so he designed a lens that is all surfaces, ring within ring of separate prisms, each ring angled precisely to catch its own slice of the flame's wasted light. The light flying upward caught by the upper prisms and folded down, the light flying downward caught and folded up, the light going sideways gathered by the great bullseyes and straightened, every ring conspiring, until virtually the whole output of one flame, up, down, and around, has been collected, disciplined, and aimed, flat and level, at the horizon, in beams as hard and straight as rulers. The result waits above you in the dusk. When this optic turns around its lamp tonight, those bullseye panels will sweep the sea like the spokes of a wheel of light, and a single flame, a flame you could hold your hands around, will be visible from the deck of a ship 20 miles out, right at the curve of the earth itself, which is the only thing that stops it. One lamp, redistributed by pure geometry, thrown to the horizon. Sailors of the old school called the great first-order lenses the diamonds, and standing under this one as the sky goes down, all 1,000 prisms of it, taking the last light and bending it gently around you, you can see their point exactly. But a steady light, however bright, is only half a lighthouse, and the other half is hiding below the optic in the pedestal. And it is a clock, because a fixed, unblinking light tells a sailor almost nothing. It could be a star rising, a ship's lantern, a house window, some other lighthouse on some other rock. What a sailor needs is not a light, but a name. And so every lighthouse in the world is given one, written not in letters, but in time. This tower's light does not shine. It flashes twice, close together, every 20 seconds, and that rhythm, 2 flashes, 20 seconds, is this rock's name in the language of the night, printed in the almanacs and on every chart of this coast. And no other light within a 100 miles is permitted the same signature. The next tower up the coast shows 1 long flash every 10. The lightship in the channel shows 3. A captain raising a light at midnight takes out his watch, counts the pattern against the second hand, and knows, from the rhythm alone, exactly which stone he is looking at and exactly where on earth he is. The keepers call it the light's character, and the word is precise. It is a personality worn in public, kept absolutely constant, because the whole system rests on every light, telling the truth about itself. All night, every night, along every coast in the world. One great slow orchestra of rhythms, each instrument playing its single phrase, forever. And the character is kept by clockwork. The whole vast optic, glass, brass and all, several tons of it, floats and turns. And in the newest towers of this coast, it floats, wonderfully, on a bath of mercury, a circular trough of quicksilver in which the entire apparatus rides like a boat, nearly frictionless, so perfectly balanced that you, one keeper with one hand, could set the tonnage moving. What actually turns it is a weight, a great iron weight hanging in a tube that runs down the center of the spiral stair, all the way down the tower's spine. And as the weight sinks, foot by foot through the night, its cable turns gears, and the gears turn the optic, at exactly 1 revolution every 20 seconds, and the bullseyes sweep, and the sea receives the tower's name, twice every 20, all night. Your job, several times a watch, is simply to wind the weight back up. 100 turns of a crank. The same crank? The same 100 turns that keepers have wound here nightly for 40 years, and between windings, The mechanism ticks to itself in its pedestal, patient and hypnotic. A grandfather clock the size of a room, whose single hand is a beam of light 20 miles long. Before your supper, learn the watch's other instrument, the one that tells the future, because a lighthouse keeper is, by necessity and long practice, one of the finest working weather prophets on earth. The barometer by the stair is the oracle, and the keepers read it the way the monks read their bells, constantly, automatically, in passing. Not the number, the movement. A high glass, steady, like tonight, is the sea's signed promise of good behavior. A slow fall means weather coming with its luggage, a day away, time to double the lashings and bring the boat gear up. A fast fall, the keepers call it a dropping glass you can watch, means the luggage was sent ahead, and the tower goes quietly to stations, shutters checked, gallery cleared, everything below made fast, long before the horizon shows a thing. And the glass has colleagues. The swell arrives before the wind that made it, always. Long slow rollers from a storm still 500 miles out, and a keeper, feeling tonight's lazy 7-second pulse, quickened to 5 knows what is coming, before any forecast ashore does. The gulls know too, and come in off the outer grounds to sit on the rock in conference. The seals haul higher. A copper light gets into the evening. The tower's low drone string in the lantern vents changes pitch by a note. By the time the shore is talking about a gale, the rock has been ready for a day and a half, supper eaten early, kettle filled, library box open, because the other thing 30 years teaches is that weather, met with preparation, is not an emergency. It is a program. The sea does the performing. The tower, having read the bill in advance, attends from the best seat on the coast. Tonight the bill says calm, high, steady, set fare. The keepers believe it. So may you. The sun touches the sea, and you light the lamp. It is a ritual with the polish of 15,000 repetitions, and you perform it the way the service taught you, in order, without hurry. The lamp stands at the exact focal heart of the optic, a burner of concentric wicks, ring within ring, fed with paraffin from the gleaming brass reservoir you filled and pumped this afternoon. You touch the flame to the wicks and walk them up slowly, letting each ring take and settle, trimming the height until the flame stands full, round and steady. A fat white gold heart of fire exactly where 1,000 prisms expect it to be. Not a finger higher, not a finger lower, because the geometry is exact and the flame must live at its center. And the optic takes it. All around you, instantly, the glass comes alive, every prism igniting. The whole beehive filling with bent and folded fire, and out on the darkening sea, the beams spring into being, solid bars of light swinging slow and level over the water, and you release the clockwork, and the great lens begins its turning, silent on its mercury. 2 flashes, 20 seconds, and somewhere out on the deepening blue, a ship you will never meet picks up the rhythm, checks it against a pocket watch, makes a small correction at the helm, and stands safely on. The lamp will burn now until sunrise, and tending it is the whole heart of the watch. Every so often through the night, you will climb to it, check the flame's height and color, top the reservoir, and, above all, trim the wicks, nipping away the charred crust so the flame stays clean and bright. And this one small scissors task is so central, so eternal, so absolutely the essence of the work, that the keepers of the whole service call themselves by it. Wickies, men of the wick. It is what they answer to in the harbor pubs ashore. It is how they sign themselves in letters to other keepers, a whole profession named for the smallest thing it does, which is somehow exactly right, because the light that saves the ships is, at its core, a well-trimmed wick, minded all night by someone who cared. You enter it in the log, in the plain liturgy of the service. Lamplit 7.42. Machine in motion. Weather fine, sea smooth. And your watch, properly speaking, begins. A lighthouse watch on a calm night is one of the most contemplative forms of work ever invented, and it goes like this. You sit in the service room, one floor below the lantern, in the round little office of the night, with the desk, the log, the barometer, the racked tools, and one good lamp. And above your head, through the open hatch, the great optic turns its slow carousel, throwing its rhythm out over the sea, and its clockwork ticks in the pedestal, and the light of the sweeping beams strokes past the service room windows, twice every 20 seconds, soft as a hand smoothing a blanket. Every hour on the hour you rise and climb the stair and walk the lantern gallery once around, checking the flame, checking the turn, looking at the sea. Every few hours, the 100 turns of the winding crank, a task exactly strenuous enough to keep a man companionably warm. Between rounds, the watch is yours, and the service, in its wisdom, has always permitted the quiet occupations, and so the second keeper's clock parts are laid out on a cloth on the desk's far side, and the principal's book lies face down in his chair, and your own evening unrolls at the pace of the optic overhead, and the tower keeps you company. That is the thing no one ashore ever believes, that a stone pillar in the sea is companionable. But it is. The swell arrives on the rock below in its long, unhurried sets, that deep, soft shoulder shrug coming up through 8 feet of granite, regular as breathing. The wind, what little there is tonight, hums one low-fixed note in the lantern vents, the tower's own drone string. The clockwork ticks. The lamp, 2 floors up, murmurs to itself as burning things do. Once an hour, faint and far, the bell of the buoy in the channel, rocked by some passing wake. The whole vertical household of sounds, stacked like the rooms, each one in its place. And after a month on the rock, a keeper can lie in his bunk and hear in half a second that everything, everywhere in the tower is exactly as it should be, which is a kind of hearing your century has lost, and this job never did. Half through your watch, the tower feeds you, because the service learned long ago that a warm keeper is an attentive one, and the night supper of a lighthouse watch is its own small institution. You go down to the banked range, and the kettle, which has been holding its readiness like a coiled spring all evening, comes to the boil in a minute and a half. The teapot is the size of a buoy, brown as a chestnut, and older than the second keeper. The toast is made at the range's open door on a long brass fork that is toasted at the rate of 3 rounds a watch for 40 years, something in the region of 40,000 slices, and the butter is shore butter from the relief, rationed early in the month and reckless at the end of it, and this is the middle of the month, so you butter like a moderate. There is cheese under the cloth, and the first heel of the second keeper's new loaf, which is, you can report to him at breakfast, a success, and a spoonful of jam from the jar with the label written in the principal's daughter's hand, plum from the garden, do not hoard it this time, and you carry the tray up the spiral stair, tea and toast rising through the sleeping tower, past the snoring, past the barometer, tapped steady into the service room, and you eat your watch supper at the desk with the log open and the beams wheeling past the windows, and the tea is strong enough to trim wicks with, and the toast is perfect, and it is entirely possible that no meal in this whole long journey of ours, not the Sina, not the Yule board, has ever been more exactly sufficient than tea and toast at 1 in the morning, 90 feet over a calm sea, inside a working light. On your first hourly round, take the spyglass out onto the gallery, the narrow iron balcony ringing the lantern. Because the night sea is not empty, it is a slow parade, and reading it is the watch's quiet entertainment. The shipping lane passes 3 miles out, and along it, all night, the lights go by. A steamer heading down channel, showing you her green starboard lamp and her masthead light, Unhurried, a small moving constellation with 40 sleeping passengers inside it. A pair of trawlers working the offshore bank, their deck lights swinging. A big square rigger, one of the last of them, ghosting up on the light air with her side lights dim and patient, in no hurry the way only sail is in no hurry. Each of them, has already found you, has counted your 2 flashes against a watch, has written you into the night's navigation and stood on. You are in their world what the church bell was in the villages, what the fountain was in the Roman street, the fixed thing, the reference, the sound of everything being where it belongs. None of them will ever know your name. All of them, tonight, are navigating partly by your wick trimming. And the lights talk among themselves, if you know the grammar. Down the coast, your neighbor tower is making its single long flash every 10, faithful as ever, and beyond it, a fainter loom against the sky, the big landfall light on the headland, 4 quick flashes, and out in the channel, the lightship burns her 3, riding to her great anchors, a lighthouse that floats, crewed by men even further out than you. Strung down the darkness, each with its own name and rhythm, the lights stand their line, all night, every night, the whole coast blinking its slow safe grammar at the sea, and from the gallery of your own tower, you can see 4 of them at once, colleagues, in a manner of speaking, keeping the same watch at 4 different addresses, and there is a fellowship in that, wordless and 20 miles wide, that every keeper feels on a clear night, and none of them has ever needed to mention. Below stairs, between rounds, the tower's domestic half runs on its own contented rails, and it rewards a visit. The kitchen at night, with the range banked low and the kettle in its permanent state of readiness, is as snug a room as exists anywhere in this century. 12 round feet of warmth, 90 feet above the sea. The provisions live in the storerooms below, and they are provisions with a plan behind them, because the relief boat comes only once a month, and only then if the sea permits landing on the rock, and the sea's permission, in winter, can be withheld for weeks together. So the tower stores deep, by regulation and by hard-learned habit, flour, tinned meat, dried peas, tea in quantity, the water tanks filled to their marks, the coal bunkered, and always untouchable. The reserve, sealed rations against the relief that does not come, because every keeper knows the stories of towers where the weather shut the door for 2 months entire, and the men inside finished the winter thin. You have stood in this room before, in other centuries, the cella, the undercroft, the Norse storeroom counted to the barrel, and here it is again, round this time, and salted with sea air, the same old answer to the same old question. How long can this small warm world hold out alone? And the answer, as always in a well-kept house, is longer than it will need to. The bread the second keeper is teaching himself proves slowly by the range, under a cloth, on its way to tomorrow. His clock parts wait on their cloth upstairs, every wheel and pinion in a labeled row, a mind's whole tidy evening laid out in brass. On the wall, framed, the roster from the shore station, the great rotation of the service, 2 months on the rock, 1 month ashore, turn and turn about. The year divided like the watches, and beside it, the photographs. The principal's grown daughters, the second keeper's new wife, squinting happily on a harbor wall. The shore life, held to the curve of the tower with brass tacks, waiting, the way the ship waited in the Norse boat shed, for its season to come round. There is one member of the tower's household who is off duty tonight, and you should meet him anyway, because his silence is part of what makes the night so fine. Out on the set-off, the stone apron below the entrance door, under its canvas hood, waits the fog signal, and the fog signal is the lighthouse's other voice, the one it uses when light is useless. Because fog is the true enemy of this coast, worse than any storm. A storm you can see coming, and a storm still lets the light through, but fog takes the light away entirely, swallows the beams within a cable's length of the lantern, and leaves the ships out there blind, feeling their way, listening. And so, for fog, the tower speaks instead of shining. In the old days, it was a bell, swung by its own clockwork, and along other stretches of this coast, it is a gun or a rocket, fired on the timed minute. But this tower carries the modern equipment, the great siren, driven by compressed air from engines in the lowest room. And when the fog closes in, the keepers raise steam, and the tower bellows, one long deep note every 2 minutes. A sound like a patient sea monster stating its position, on and on, hour after hour, for as long as the fog holds, sometimes 2 days together. And the keepers stand their watches inside the roar with cotton wool in their ears, and their teacups gently walking across the table, and the ships out in the white listen, and count the intervals, and know their rock, by ear now instead of eye, because the tower, one way or another, will always tell them where it is. But tonight, the air is rinsed and clear for 20 miles, the barometer is high and steady, and the siren sleeps under its canvas, and the engines are cold, and of all the sounds stacked in the tower's vertical household, the sweetest one tonight is that particular silence. The silence of the fog signal on a clear night, which is the sound of nobody, anywhere out there, being lost. Back in the service room, your watch settles into its deep middle, and this is the hour that belongs to the great indoor culture of the lighthouse service, which is richer than anyone ashore ever suspects. On the shelf by the desk stands the wooden box with the brass corners, and the box is a library. It came on the relief boat, as its brothers have come for 30 years, one of the traveling libraries the service circulates from tower to tower. 40 books in a fitted case, novels, voyages, natural history, a volume of sermons that no box is ever without, and no keeper has ever been observed reading. And when the next relief comes, this box will move on down the coast to the lightship, and another will arrive, so that the books themselves are on a slow, perpetual cruise from rock to rock, read by lamplight in round rooms all along the coast, growing salt-cured and tea-ringed and dear. The principal is 60 pages into the Arctic voyages again. It is his favorite box. He has met it 4 times in 30 years and greets it like a colleague. And on the deep windowsill, in its cradle of chocks, stands the second great genre of lighthouse evenings, the ship in the bottle, the keeper's own art, 3 masts and 14 threads of rigging folded flat and coaxed through the neck and raised inside with a loop of string, and more patience than your century keeps in stock. And this one is the principal's 7th, and its little painted sea is made of putty, and its home port, painted on the stern in letters you would need the spyglass to read, is the name of the village where his daughters live. There is scrimshaw in the drawer, and a half-knotted mat of white cord, and the second keeper's clock wheels on their cloth, and understand what all of it is. This whole shelf and drawer museum of tiny patient things. It is what happens when you give steady men steady time. The sea outside is enormous and cannot be finished, so the hands make small things that can be perfect, completable worlds, 6 inches long, 1 thread a night, at the pace of the optic turning overhead, and every lighthouse in the service is quietly full of them. Bottled ships and knotted mats and mended clocks, the fingerprints of calm. And on the gallery rail, when you step out for air, you find your watch has visitors. It is the tale of the autumn migration, and on nights like this, the lantern is a landmark for more than ships. Birds coming down the coast on their enormous journeys, redwings and fieldfares out of the north. Warblers riding the calm, use the beams the way the steamers do, a fixed, known thing in the dark, and some of them stop. Tonight, There is a row of small tired travelers sitting along the gallery rail in the lee of the lantern, feathers rounded out against the mild air, dozing in the sweep of the light, and a woodcock, absurd and dignified, standing on the gallery boards themselves as if awaiting an appointment. The keepers know them all, keep a bird book in the service room by regulation and by affection, log the notable ones, and on rough migration nights, they have been known to open the lantern room lee door and let the smallest ones shelter till dawn among the oil cans, where they sit in a row like a shelf of ornaments, spending the night inside the second brightest room on the coast. At first light, the rail will empty, one small departure at a time, the travelers dropping off into the dawn and picking up their southward business as though the night had been nothing. And in a sense, that is the tower's whole trade in miniature. Things that must cross the dark, borrowing its steadiness for a few hours, and going on their way unharmed. The service calls them passage birds. The principal, 30 years on rocks, calls them the other traffic, and enters the woodcock in the log, under the steamers, in the same ink. On the desk, weighted under a brass shell case, lies the tower's thin, precious thread to the shore. The letters. Mail comes with the relief, once a month, weather permitting. And so a lighthouse letter is a different creature from a shore letter. It is written slowly over many evenings, a paragraph a night, a running journal addressed to one person, and it is read the same way, rationed, reread, answered in the margins of the mind for weeks before the answer can be posted. The second keeper is 3 evenings into his current one, and the salutation is 3 weeks old already, and none of that troubles anyone here, because the rock runs on a different postal metaphysics, in which affection is not diminished by the delay, but concentrated by it, the way the optic concentrates the lamp. And on relief day, when the boat can land, the whole emotional traffic of a month happens in 1 hour on the set-off, the mail sack, the fresh meat and the newspapers, the new library box, the departing keeper's sea bag, handshakes, the boat standing off again. And then the tower closes round its 3 men once more, one of them new come from shore and unbearably full of news, which he will dole out by unwritten law over a week of suppers to make it last. Ashore, they know the tower the way the tower knows the ships, as a light. The principal's daughters, on their harbor wall 9 miles east, can see this lantern on clear nights, 2 flashes every 20, and they grew up on it, went to sleep by it through 1,000 childhood windows, their father's actual work, visible from their actual bedroom, and when they were small, they would signal him good night by drawing the curtain twice, and be entirely certain he saw it, and he, on the gallery with the spyglass at the appointed hour, entirely did. Your century, which can speak to anyone instantly and constantly, might pity a family that talks in monthly letters and curtain twitches. Look at the man reading his Arctic voyages in the lamplight, 30 years steady, pictures tacked to the curve of the wall, and reconsider. The thread is thin. It has never once broken. Your midnight round, the last full one of your watch, is the finest of the night, and you take the spyglass and your tea out onto the gallery for it, into the clean, enormous air. The night has gone perfectly still. The sea below is black glass with a slow satin swell moving through it, and the moon is up now, laying a broad silver road from the horizon straight to the base of the tower, and the beams sweep across it all, twice every 20, silent, level, serene. The coast has gone to its beds. The village lights down to a last stubborn handful. The steamer traffic has thinned to one late boat, well out, minding her own affairs. Underneath the gallery, on the dark rock, the seals have hauled out for the night, a dozen of them. You can hear them below you, the heavy, comfortable shuffling, a long sigh, the occasional soft hoot of a seal dream. the Rock's original tenants, entirely unimpressed by 70 years of lighthouse, sleeping in the sweep of the beams as they have slept through 25,000 nights of them, and above everything, the stars in their seagoing numbers, and among them, because you are a keeper now, and keepers learn the sky whether they mean to or not, the working stars, the ones the ships steer by, the pole star standing at its fixed post over the northern horizon, the one light in the universe with a duty roster like yours, on watch every clear night since before there were ships, never wound, never trimmed, never relieved. The old sailors called the lighthouse service the shore lights of heaven's own system, and standing on the gallery at midnight between the pole star above and your own beams below, both of them keeping station, both of them counted on tonight by men you will never meet, you can feel the size of the fellowship you have been admitted to, which is very large and very old, and mostly silent and entirely made of light. And the sea saves its last trick of the night, for the moment you lean over the rail to look straight down. The water around the rock is alight, not with your light, with its own, the soft, cold green fire of the sea's smallest creatures, stirred glowing by every movement, so that the swell breaking lazily on the rock breaks in pale luminous lace, and the seals, when one slides off into the dark water below you, goes down the deep in a long dimming ghost of green, trailing light the way a comet trails it, and every fish that moves in the black water writes its signature briefly in fire. The old keepers call it the sea's lamp room, and on the calm nights of late summer, it burns all around the base of the tower, the ocean keeping its own small unofficial light at the foot of the official one, and no chart records it, and no almanac predicts it, and it costs nothing, and it is one of the sights men sign on to rocks for 30 years, partly in hopes of, and tonight, on your first watch, it is simply there, given, like everything else about this improbable, generous night. The flame, when you check it, is perfect. The clockwork is sweet. You wind the weight its 100 turns, the sound going down the tower's spine like a purr. And you make your entry. Midnight, wind fallen away, sea smooth, moon bright. All well, the other great entry of the service. You initial it and go down to wake the principal, because the deep night is his, and your watch, your first and finest, is done. The handover is its own small ceremony, worn smooth as everything here is worn smooth. The principal is awake before your hand reaches his door, 30 years of watches having installed in him a clock no mercury bath could improve. He comes up to the service room in his stockinged feet with his boots in his hand, and the two of you stand a minute at the desk while the tower changes hands. The glass, still high, still steady. The lamp, drawing well, reservoir topped at midnight. The weight, fresh wound. One steamer west going, the seals hauled out, nothing else moving on the whole dark sea. He reads your entries, nods once, which from the principal is a paragraph, initials the book beneath your initials, and sits down into the watch the way another man might settle into a boat he has owned for 30 years. He does not light the desk lamp yet. He likes the first half hour of the deep watch dark, with just the sweep coming past the windows and the clockwork ticking, and every keeper who has ever served with him knows it, and leaves the lamp for him to light in his own time. Tea things rinsed. A last listen up the hatchway, the optic turning, serene, and then down the winding stair through the sleeping tower, past the second keeper's door and the small nautical thunder of his snoring, down to your own curved room, where the bunk waits in the wall with the blankets turned back, and the deep-set window holds its little pane of moonlit sea, and every 20 seconds, twice, softly, the wall of the room brightens and dims as the beams wheel overhead, the light passing over its own house like a hand over a banister. All night, every night, and there has never been a nightlight in all the world like the working beam of the tower you are asleep inside. and as you lie in the bunk with the light sweeping its slow double pulse across your ceiling. Let the lighthouse year turn past you once, because even a stone pillar in the sea has seasons, and they are good ones. The winter, which is the tower's great employment, the low, dark months of weather when the rock earns its keep, gales queuing up out of the southwest, the door shut for weeks, the tower shrugging off the big seas with that deep dovetailed shutter, the lamp burning 16 hours at a stretch, the three of you snugger than anyone ashore would believe, deep in the library box, the bread rising, the log filling with wind northwest, gale, lamp burning well, all secure, which is the service's way of writing. Let it rage, we are exactly where we are supposed to be. Then the spring, and the great migrations passing the lantern. Some nights, the beams full of birds going north, and the first painting weather, because a lighthouse is painted the way a ship is painted. Perpetually, the whole white tower gone over section by section from a bosun's chair, and the relief boat coming regular again, and the seals pupping on the far skerry. The summer, the tower's holiday, short bright nights when the lamp burns barely 6 hours, the sea like a meadow, mackerel off the set-off on a hand line, the inspection visit with the district engineer running a white glove along the lamproom brass and finding this tower, always, nothing. The shore leave month falling in the fine weather. If the roster is kind, harbor pubs, the daughters, grass under the boots, and always, by the third week ashore, the small secret ache to be back. And the autumn, the equinox gales to remind everyone of the terms, the provisions doubled in, the coal topped to the beams, the storm shutters overhauled, the year battening quietly down, and the first long night of October, when the lamp is lit at 6, and the winter watch begins again, and the tower turns back into what it most deeply is, a small warm-lit room held up above the dark sea on 8 feet of granite and 100 turns of a crank, all through the worst of the year, for the benefit of strangers. And sometime deep in the small hours, half asleep in your curved room, you will surface for a moment, as sleepers on rocks do, and take the tower's census without opening your eyes. The sweep, still crossing the ceiling, twice every 20. The swell, still 7 seconds to the beat. The clockwork, faint, 2 floors up, still ticking its long patient sentence. The snoring, the kettle quiet, the drone string humming its one low note, everything answering. And you will go back down into sleep without ever fully leaving it, the way the second sleep comes on every rock and in every century, easier than the first, because now you have proof. The tower audited itself for you in 5 sounds and passed, and before sleep takes you, walk the tower one last time, room by round room, from the sea to the stars, touching each thing as you pass it, and letting it go. The rock and the long lazy swell arriving every 7 seconds, the tower's resting heartbeat, and the granite dovetailed into one single stone that has declined, politely, for 70 years, to be moved. Let it go. The 3 keepers and their rolling clockwork of watches, the barometer tapped in passing like a sleeping child, and 70 years of nothing to report, bound in canvas on the shelf. Every blank line a night of ships that never knew your name. Let them go. The lantern room at sunset, the optic undressed from its linen panel by panel, the 1,000 prisms quietly on fire with the last of the day. Let it go. The Frenchman's idea, the boulder of glass taken apart into pure surfaces, the wasted light of one small flame, gathered, disciplined, and thrown flat to the curve of the earth. Let it go. The light's character, 2 flashes every 20. The rock's own name spoken in rhythm all night to every watch on every bridge, and the whole coast blinking its slow, safe grammar down the dark, colleagues at 4 addresses, keeping the same watch. Let them go. The weight sinking down the tower's spine, the optic riding its bath of quicksilver, the 100 turns of the crank going down the stairwell like a purr, and the grandfather clock the size of a room whose single hand is a beam 20 miles long. Let it go. The wicks trimmed by the men who named their whole profession after the smallest thing it does, and the fat white gold heart of flame standing exactly where 1,000 prisms expect it. Not a finger higher, not a finger lower. Let it go. The siren asleep under its canvas, and the sweetest sound of a clear night. The silence of the fog signal, the sound of nobody out there being lost. Let it go. The 5 tide-ruled summers, the tower rehearsed once on land and grown again on the rock. The chisel marks still riding the stair, and the arrangement, oilskins and all, build the thing that outlasts you. Let them go. The dropping glass you can watch, the swell arriving before its own wind, the gulls coming into conference, and weather met with preparation. Not an emergency, but a program. Let it go. The teapot brown as a chestnut, the 40,000th slice of toast, the jam labeled in a daughter's hand, and the meal that no Sina ever bettered, tea and toast at 1 in the morning, inside a working light. Let it go. The small tired travelers dozing in a row on the gallery rail, the woodcock awaiting its appointment, the other traffic, entered under the steamers in the same ink. Let them go. The library box on its slow perpetual cruise from rock to rock, the Arctic voyages greeted like a colleague, the ship raised inside its bottle, 1 thread a night, the fingerprints of calm on every shelf. Let them go. The letters written a paragraph an evening, the month's whole heart landed in 1 hour on the set-off, and the 2 twitches of a curtain on a harbor wall, 9 miles east, seen every time from the gallery, through the spyglass, at the appointed hour. Let them go. The seals shuffling and sighing on the dark rock, the moon's silver road laid straight to the tower's base, the pole star standing its fixed post above the beams, the oldest keeper in the service, never wound, never trimmed, never relieved. Let them go. The handover at midnight, the principal settling into the deep watch like a boat he has owned for 30 years, the lamp left dark for him to light in his own time. Let it go. And the beams themselves, wheeling over the sleeping tower, over the seals, over the moon road, over the 1 late steamer minding her own affairs, twice every 20 seconds, all night, the light passing over its own house like a hand along a banister. Let it all go. It is all still there. That is the whole vow of this place. The weight is sinking, and will be wound. The flame is fat and centered, and will be trimmed. The character will not miss a beat between now and sunrise, has not missed one in 70 years, and out on the dark water, the ships are counting it against their pocket watches and standing safely on. All night, every night, whether anyone ashore ever thinks of this rock or not. So, your hands can let go of the day, your shoulders can let go of the day, and your thoughts can come down the spiral stair now too, past the warm kitchen, past the snoring, into the curved room in the thick stone wall, and climb into the bunk that fits them exactly. One last thing, and it is the lighthouse's own gift, and no other night in the world can give it to you. Everything you have ever slept through was watched over by something. But tonight, you can see the watching. It is sweeping across your ceiling right now, twice every 20 seconds, soft as a hand smoothing a blanket, the actual working beam of the light itself, keeping its station over your bed on its way out to the horizon, and 1 floor up, a steady man in stockinged feet is sitting with it in the dark, unhurried, 30 years sure, and the flame is trimmed, and the weight is wound, and the glass is high and steady, and the sea tonight could not trouble a sleeping seal. The lamp is lit and will not go out. The log says all well in ink. The ships are finding their way by your wick without waking you, and the light is on the ceiling, going around, going around. the one nightlight in the world that is also saving lives while it soothes you. Sleep now, inside the light itself. Good night.